Okay. Show our mops off.
Put the logo up so your barking people will be happy.
I like that. And our fans. I'm still hearing about the contract signing picture, John.
Welcome to the Tennessee, our 9th and final news conference today. As a courtesy to your fellow media members, if you just come in, please turn off your cell phones or at least silence them. We're going to start with a comment from Tony, then we'll open it up for questions for the student athletes. And when we do so, please wait to be recognized. We'll get a mic to you and give us your name and affiliation and to whom you're directing the question. Like I say, players first and then the coach. If you're joining in on Zoom, please use the raise hand function for those questions. We'll address questions in the room first, and we'll get to you as time permits. Congratulations on getting here this year, Tony. Give us an overview.
Thank you. Yeah, I think kids, fans, media members, players, anyone would crawl through glass or whatever phrase you want to use to get here in any way, shape, or form. And it was certainly a challenging road for us and late hours in Hattiesburg. They did a great job of hosting the Super Regional as best they could, but lightning interfered with a lot. So the boys have been road weary, but once you get here, the adrenaline spikes up immediately, and you're just taken aback at how well it's run and also how well it's attended. And so our guys, I think, are back to full strength energy-wise, and the next thing will be to manage it as best they can as we kind of wait our turn to play Saturday night.
Okay, we'll open it up now for questions from the floor, and we'll go here with Jake.
Jake McKeever, College Baseball Central. Jared and Camden, all season it was talked about how bad your road record is. How did that kind of change in the postseason where you've had to go on the road so much?
Yeah, I think down the stretch we kind of just decided, it's what we got to do if we want to go all the way. So just having that mindset and coming together as a team, I think it helped us a lot.
Jared?
I think building off of what Jared's saying, it kind of came to a point where, honestly, it got to the point in the season where it was like, kind of made jokes about it. It was like, oh, we saved them all towards the end of the year. So we kind of used that motto and ran with that.
I didn't think it was funny.
Okay. Next question. Okay, Eric.
Eric Olson of the Associated Press. Jared, you guys have been known to hit the long ball. How do you think that plays in this park?
If it plays the way it did today, then I'd say we're in pretty good shape. It was flying out to all parts of the field. We've also got some pretty strong guys on the team, so that probably helps a little bit. But, yeah, if it plays like it did today, then I'd say we're in a good spot.
Okay, Brandon.
All right, Brendan Prizeman, the Omaha World Herald. This is for Jared and Camden. You guys have had kind of a roller coaster of a season. At one point earlier in the year, you won 15 of 16 games and then immediately got swept in the series after that. But right now you're on a little bit of a hot streak, winning 5 of the last 6, all on the road. So how are you guys aiming to keep this hot streak up? And is there anything in particular you guys are doing as like superstitions or maybe just practice habits to try and keep this up?
Yeah, I wouldn't really call it a hot streak. I would just kind of say we're playing good baseball right now, and that's what this team's capable of. And like I said, finally coming together as a team, it's allowed us to be comfortable with each other on and off the field, and it's allowed us to just mesh together and know that we've got each other's backs no matter where we're at.
Okay, Camden.
Yeah. We pretty much covered it all. Main thing for us was just still being together as a group and getting the opportunity to come together every day to the field or whatever it may be, travel, be together and spend more time together. And we're excited to keep it rolling.
Get back over here.
Noah Darling, College Baseball Central. Both guys, can you just talk about what it's like to play for a coach like Tony Vitello?
Camden.
Yeah,
I'm in the room, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know who listens to this or whatever, but I'm played for him long enough to even be here 5 years now. So if that says anything about how much I love playing for this guy, can't put it into words. If you're a younger athlete, if you want someone who loves to compete with you, loves to push you, loves everything, this is the guy you want to play for.
Jared.
Yeah, there's really not much else you can say. Camden pretty much just covered it. He's got your back on and off the field. He's going to do everything he can for you, baseball-wise and just life-wise. He's helped me more than I could ever describe. So it's definitely awesome.
Brandon?
This one's for Camden. You mentioned the experience you got playing under Coach Vitello, and you've had a ton of experience pitching. You pitched in the CWS in 2021. You pitched in the Super Regionals in 2022. This year you had 4 strikeouts against Charlotte, 3 against Southern Miss coming in relief. How have you used the experience of past years to help yourself in your game along this year on this run?
To be honest, this go-around, it's kind of unique because everything I've kind of used or picked up on that helps me, I kind of relay to the younger guys as much as I can. The A.J. Russells, the guys that I think are going to be pretty special and already are. So that's the thing for me is just anything I learn, pick up on, the kind of relay that information the best I can and whatever I can to help the younger guys and the guys that are going to continue to build this program.
Okay, we'll go with Jake here.
Jake McKeever, College Baseball Central. Camden, can you kind of talk about what you learned last year being the #1 team, losing in the Super Regional, and what you kind of brought to the team this year with that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, last year wasn't how everyone wanted it to end, but I think everything that happened last year kind of put the stepping stones together, or whatever you want to call it, for this year, and to kind of deal with the adversity and everything that come with it. And we have dealt with a lot of adversity this year, but we're coming together at the right time. So that's what we're excited for.
Question right here.
John Wilkerson, sports animal in Knoxville. Camden, this one for you and then one for both you and Jared. But you have the distinction potentially of being the first Tennessee Vol to ever play in 2 College World Series. What does that mean to you? And then for both of you, how pivotal was that first game, second half of the season, that Friday night game against Vanderbilt? What did that mean? How pivotal was it to what you guys have done since then?
To the first part of that, I didn't even know that, so that's pretty cool. But the other part, I think the Vanderbilt game, honestly, a lot of people considered it like a swinging point in our season, but at that point, we were just trying to get a win, and that did kind of turn everything around. And a lot of people say that one game like that is how a season turns around, and you don't point it out, but looking back on it, that was probably the game that kind of turned everything around.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I don't want you to hear this, but I'll say it anyway. We were kind of sitting in the locker room and looking at each other like we're 5-10 in the SEC, and that was pretty much all that we said. We just knew something had to flip, and then, like I said, finally came together during that Friday night game, and it was awesome. From that point on, it was a really fun experience, and hopefully we can just keep it going.
Okay, we have a question from Zoom. Remember to please give us your name and your affiliation, please.
Ben McKee, GoVols247.com for Camden and Jared. I wanted to ask your opinion on that 2021 team. There's kind of been a common theme of maybe that team not handling the moment as well as it could have, or the same way that you all did throughout that season. What needs to happen to make sure that you all don't get outside of yourselves on the big stage this time around?
Camden.
Yeah, I think enjoy the moment and enjoy the environment and everything that's going on, but still focus at the task at hand and not get too caught up in all the outside activities and everything like that. It's kind of the approach that I feel like needs to be taken this time versus last go-around.
Jared?
Yeah, I don't think there's really anything different than the regional that we played or the super regional that we played being here. We're still playing baseball, so I think we just go out there and attack every task with conviction, and we'll be fine.
Okay, any more questions for the student athletes? If not, guys, you're excused. You don't have to hang around and listen to Tony.
Thank you.
Remember that Sean is the baseball contact. There he goes. Well, don't worry about it.
Soon as Camden Sewell's sponsor.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
So we'll open it up now for questions. Eric has the question of the day.
Who's your starting pitcher tomorrow?
Well, Frank's not sitting here. We've just kind of gone with our routine. So I think one time everyone went crazy because I got asked in our local media setup similar to this, And I said, well, we're about to practice, and then we'll finalize it. So anytime we've done that, it's just I don't like saying something and then, there's no tomfoolery or anything like that. But we've rolled with what really has got us to this point with Andrew Lindsay first and Dolander second and Beam third. Burnsy's been incredible out of the bullpen with his stuff and ability to get outs, but he's kind of changed our team's mentality a little bit too with, the emotion he pitches with and having fun out there again as an athlete. But also he gives our guys confidence that the back end of the game is one that, we feel like we can win each time we go out.
Okay, Noah?
Noah Darling, College Baseball Central. Between your 2021, 22, and 23 teams, which one has kind of taught you the most?
Which one is kind of the most close together?
Just which one has taught you the most about coaching?
Oh, taught the most. This one, hands down. It's been interesting, and it didn't quite work out this way because the 2020 year was so crazy. And I'm not saying it because it's easy to say you were good in 2020 because we didn't play any SEC games. But there's a lot of people within the program that think that was the most talented group. But you would have liked to keep climbing. Well, eventually you're going to get to a point where you can't say we're better this year than we were last year. It's kind of trying to create a standard and uphold it. And this year, to follow last year's act and all the stuff that came with it and just a lot of other mini stories along the way, it's been a ton. And I've repeatedly said it to where anyone listening probably thinks we're whining. And we got an unbelievable coaching staff that has stuck together and been loyal. We're blessed with talent. I mean, there's multiple guys that throw 100. So it's not like we don't have the ability to get to a place like this. But the journey we took was about as zigzaggy or curvy or windy as it can get. And maybe it's helped us in the long run because I don't feel like we've reached our full potential. Now, if that's the case, you better find it in a hurry because there's only so many days left, even for the national champion. But just for our program's sake, our fans' sake, the construction with the stadium, how many kind of different little adversity stories I could tell you about this year, there's been a lot wrapped into one. It's a big old Chipotle burrito of stuff that's gone on this year. Been beneficial, though, in the long run.
Okay. Brandon?
Brendan Preisman, Omaha World Herald. Coach Vitello, you talked about the zigzagginess of the season. I think one thing that might exemplify that, you guys swept Vandy the week after you got swept by Arkansas. So definitely a lot of ups and downs in this campaign. So how important do you think that getting consistency in order to reach that potential that you talked about, how important do you think that getting that consistency is, and how are you and your staff planning on helping these players get to that?
Sure. No, I think a little bit of that is that's a microcosm of the league. There's a lot of teams that could tell that story of one weekend it was great or exhilarating, and the next weekend it felt like, your season's coming to an end. Mississippi probably would have described that a couple different times last year. So our league is like that, and then our team has been like that this year. And I think what I want to answer your question with, whether it's directly to your specific to your question, I should say, or not, is just there was so much tinkering going on. And maybe that's my fault, maybe it's a player's fault, but guys in the cage adjusting swings, new lineup every day. Where does this guy go in the bullpen? What are we going to do with Camden? And Andrew Lindsay's supposed to be our closer. Well, we don't have any save opportunities. There was just all this tinkering, and I think eventually we decided to go with a few different things that were going to be our specific approach day in and day out, whether it be the lineup or the defense we wanted to roll with. And eventually it settled in. And these kids are young. They want to come to the park and know what's expected of them. And it takes two to tango. Part of it was our fault. Part of it was theirs. But the whole first half of the season just had a lot of juggling and trying to figure things out. And there's been a lot more consistency from the coaches and the players together. We've kind of come together and done it as a group.
Eric?
Tony, I think probably a lot of people presume that Skeens will pitch against you tomorrow. First go around against him, he's pretty solid against you like he was against everybody, it seems like. What can you take from that game, the last time you saw him, as far as taking it into this game?
Yeah, he was more than solid. And the one thing when you face a guy like Grice at Clemson, I'm glad our hitters had a better mentality than I did in the dugout because there was moments of doubt. But you have to just keep playing. And I've been fortunate enough to coach some pitchers, and some of them have also been pitchers who faced where you can see the other dugout kind of deflate. And the series was not our best effort, but the kids did keep kind of pushing forward in that series, and it was early, but it was one of the first signs of, okay, we got a little bit of the fight that we want in our program. And we finished that weekend off very well on Sunday. But if you date back to Friday or game one of that deal, Skeens was better than us. And I think there's probably some info in there that we can pull out, and the guys can take some confidence in. Maybe we've seen him once before, but he's probably a different pitcher now than he was then. It's probably a different LSU team in some areas. I mean, they still got Mr. Cruz and all that. And we're a different team, too. So you want to have some preparation going into the deal and see what will be similar from that weekend and maybe try and get a head start on what could be different. But I also feel like this is a place where you don't know what's going to happen. Just like our last weekend, lightning, pitching changes, expect chaos and embrace it during the postseason. And this group has done that very, very well. And maybe it's those struggles we had early on that built us for that.
Okay, we'll go back here.
Karthik Venkatraman, WBR TV from Knoxville. Tony, your dad's always seemed to push you in a lot of ways throughout all your years of coaching. What has he meant to you in your coaching career, and especially maybe this season with all the adversity you have faced?
Yeah, I think for me, the players get out there, and we talk about being in Omaha. All of a sudden you can look up and be like, holy cow, like there's big crowds in the SEC, but this is a big crowd. And then this is also the park you're dreaming of playing in. Well, if you've got a good foundation of work ethic and things you've done in the weight room and preparation and all that, it should be easy to take a deep breath and say, just go do it. And for me, I'm young and I have to lean on Coach Anderson a lot and still kind of trying to find my way. But when there are moments of difficulty or we need to try something new, I think the foundation I got just from being around him every day is the most beneficial. And that doesn't mean in a season like this, his encouragement or maybe his words to the guys or cracking a joke at maybe a valuable time doesn't, carry some weight. But I really just feel like the foundation in general is one that's strong. And I'm not saying it about myself, but it's kind of the old house thing. Like, you want to have a house that's got a good foundation, and the rest is kind of icing on the cake. And so for me, again, being around him all those years, he can say stuff to me now, and sometimes it's needed. Sometimes it's not, because maybe it's after a loss where you don't want to talk or something like that. But I can hear that voice right now. And anything he's going to say, I've heard about every version of it in different varying tones. And all beneficial.
Jake, we'll go to you, and then we'll get to the Zoomiverse here.
Jake McKeever, College Baseball Central. Coach, you had a ton of veteran leadership graduate off of last year's team. Who have you seen kind of step up and become a leader on this one?
Zane Denton, just with him coming out of his shell. I mean, it's been awesome. When you come to the park, some of it's a little too choreographed at times, but you want some personality, you want stick some gum on a guy's hat or, just shenanigans, whatever you want to call it. I think him getting new to our program and then some of the adversity he faced in his first year with us kind of had him bottled up a little bit. And now just him being himself shows the other guys, well, that's kind of what we need to be the best team, is just everybody kind of be who they are and kind of let your light shine, to use that cliche. So he's taken on a bigger leadership role than I thought he would. Griffin Merritt and Jared Dickey have been great because they're older. They're guys in the middle of the order that are looked to. So those are two guys that stand out to me. But you could kind of go up and down the lineup. It's a young group, as you mentioned, so everybody kind of had to contribute a little bit. And then on the pitching side of things, again, Lindsey and Burns kind of taking on different roles. They showed our guys how to start a series with competitiveness and how to end a game or end a series with competitiveness.
Okay, let's go to Zoom now and remind the caller that, like, your name, your affiliation, and any question.
Eric Kane, Volquest.com. Tony, how do you balance with your roster right now, everything that is Omaha, the pageantry, the crowds, everything going on, but also, hey, we got to go out there and play some games. And how much do you rely on guys like Camden to kind of help you out in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, Camden, he set it up here. I'm glad he did. He's become a mentor. And, I mean, I'm close with the kid, so no offense, but I never thought he'd be a mentor. I thought he'd be a really good pitcher for us right out of the gate, and he's put together one of the best careers, as John mentioned. It could be pretty interesting if he makes an appearance here or a landmark appearance, and he's helped. But to be honest with you, last time the way we advanced here and the downtime we had between, you could even throw out there was no opening ceremony like we'll have tonight. There was no celebration because it was so close to 2020. I don't even want to say the word. There was too much downtime, and there was too much media and hype and, you know, the daddy hat stuff and all that. I think it became a distraction, and it kind of took most of the attention of our guys instead of just focusing on the game. This time around, I think the guys are just trying to get some rest. We got done in Hattiesburg at midnight. They probably went to bed at 3 or 4 in the morning just by nature of adrenaline. We fly out the next morning, then we fly here about 18, 20 hours later. They're probably just trying to get back to neutral and enjoy this thing, so it's probably moving a lot faster. I think the nature of the schedule could benefit us this go-around.
Okay, another question from Zoom.
Yes, Tony, I wanted to ask you kind of about that 2021 team as well, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's been times since then you kind of alluded to the stage maybe getting the best of them within those games, and you just talked about that to a certain extent, but do you have a different approach in terms of the message to the guys entering these two games to make sure that they stay within themselves and just try to keep it to playing baseball?
I don't. I think like anything, I kept mentioning Game 3 against Southern Miss, they were too hyped up. I mean, it was good that they were hyped up, as you should be in that situation, but they kind of needed to relax a little bit. So I don't have the magic thermometer to tell, you know, exactly what's going on with the team. But if we see stuff, we'll point it out. But otherwise, again, the schedule throughout the whole season of 56 games in the SEC tournament, that did our job for us. And that's, again, there's great conferences out there, you know, but the SEC kind of beats it into you, out of you, however you want to phrase it, that you go through that stuff and it prepares you. But I think that 2021 group will tell you, those guys are not, Liam Spence and Fergie and Russell aren't scared of anything. But I think they just kind of locked up, and instead of staying true to themselves, they were not. And it hurt us a little bit in that particular case. But a different team, different time, different schedule.
Okay, remind the Zoom caller, please give us your name and affiliation and then ask your question.
Hi, Coach. KCK from WATE in Knoxville. When the season started, I know that you had mentioned that it was the learning process in terms of chemistry with this team and everyone coming together. How would you say that that's really developed throughout the postseason and specifically the last 2 weekends in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, it's gone from, I don't know, where it's a faraway place, Bali, all the way to the United States of America. It's as long of a trip as you can imagine. In August, it was weird. Even though we lost in the Supers, we did play late into the summer, or at least halfway through the summer. Some of those guys stuck around the facility and prepared for pro ball because the draft is later. So all of a sudden it went from Camden Sewells and Drew Gilberts and Evan Russells, guys that just, they were like extra coaches. They were staples of the program, Luke Lipsius, to all these new guys. And it got real weird, real fast. And I think the coaches were far apart from the players were far apart from one another, and there was just a lot of sorting out that needed to be done. And by the end of the fall, we played Memphis in front of a massive crowd down on the west side of the state. That was great for our program, but it was great for the coaches because it was the first day we're like, these guys have come a long way in the first semester. But then you got to start back over in January, and the standards and expectations are higher. So we started where we ended off in the fall, but it needed to go further. So again, I would like to say that, to me, we're still working on what is the best version of ourselves, but we're much further along than we had been at any point in the season.
Okay, that'll do it for this session. Reminder that Hammond Communications posts a recording of all of our news conferences at the NCAA Digital Media Hub at ncaaveritone.com. Transcripts are presented by ASAP, and they'll be posted shortly. Thanks, and we'll see everybody. See y'all Saturday, and we'll see everybody else tomorrow.
That works with me. Thank you all.